You're listening to The Money Hour with your host, Tina Mitchell, on Alternative Talk, AM 1150. Now, back to the show with local mortgage and finance expert, Tina Mitchell.
Welcome back to the Money Hour with your host and mortgage expert, Tina Mitchell, right here on 1150 AM KKNW, the Saturday, July 22nd show. I provide you news on everything money, fresh information, market trends in our local economy. And if you're hearing my show at a different time or day, you are listening to a rebroadcast. To talk to the guests that I have in studio, you can call the show at 1-855-400-1150. Again, that's 1-855-400-1150 or online at themoneyhour.com. And in studio right now, I have Kari Scott with John Scott, and we're going to be talking about the crazy real estate markets and tips to writing a winning offer. And I know, Kari, you've had a lot of success with that in this crazy market. So thank you for coming back in studio.
Well, Tina, thanks for having me.
And a little bit about Kari. Kari is in the top 1% John Scott agents for 2016, President Elite Award, Outstanding Production 2010 through 2015, 5-Star Real Estate Agent Award, Seattle Magazine, Certified Luxury Home Marketing Specialist, Accredited Staging Professional, International Association Home Staging Professional, Certified Quality Street Agent, Group Leader, Mentor for Brian Buffini, Regional Manager, Team Member for Brian Buffini, and member of John Scott Foundation, Peak Group Leader Experience, and Peak Performer Class Facilitator. Kari serves the most popular inner city neighborhoods in the Seattle area and has been in the business for over 20 years. She is recognized as one of the top agents in the Seattle metro area. 90% of her business is repeat and referral due to her Nordstrom quality of service. Kari uses her time, energy, and resources to invest in client relationships. Her approach is investing in her clients to give them the trust and confidence to not only use her again, but to refer her to family, friends, and associates. Kari's team includes Lynn Sterling, her full-time licensed assistant, who also offers top-notch service, a wealth of knowledge, and willing spirit to do whatever it takes to get the job done. She is also consistently in the top 1% of John Scott company-wide 2000 through 2015. Kari, that's why I have you here. I mean, the bio says it all. I only bring the best of the best in studio, and just really excited to have you share your wealth of experience and knowledge with my listeners. So let's just get right to it. How do you write a winning offer?
Well, it's tough. It's really tough for buyers. And when they've put in 3 or 4 offers and they haven't got the winning bid, it's really, really hard on them emotionally. And they think, can I survive and win a home bid in this crazy market? So it really gets down to your terms and conditions, because the sellers are kind of in the catbird seat right now. And they're sitting back saying, okay, bring it on now. So, there's so many questions. Do we inspect? Do we pre-inspect? Do we do a sewer scope? Do we write a love letter? Do we waive our financing? Do we waive our appraisal? Do we guarantee our appraisal? Do we have the delta between, if we have a low appraisal come in, what we agree to pay and what the bank will lend on? And where do we get that money from? And so we've gotten creative with how we find out how to make all those, with the mortgage lender, figure out how we can make all that work. And then with their family members that sometimes are coming and helping a lot of our millennials that can't quite pull it all together in the way that will give them a winning outcome.
Yeah, so let's start out with the appraisal and the appraisal value and waiving that. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because that is a big one. I see that across my desk all the time in contracts.
Well, it all starts off when I sit with buyers, and whether they're many-time buyers or first-time buyers, I always start with the offering price, which actually I've referred to now as the starting price, because we've had such huge escalation in the Seattle market. Between 10 and 22% is kind of our average, which we've seen, that they think if the house is $700,000, they think that should get it. And I'm here to tell them we need runway, we need a ramp to roll it up. If we really want to be competitive, we know there are going to be multiple offers. So when they sit down for the buyer consultation, I explain all this to them, because when you say guaranteed appraisal, that's just like speaking Greek. They're like, what?
Because what does that mean?
That was old school real estate in this market, which I'm sure we'll roll back to that eventually.
Of course.
Right now, it's all about strategy. So we sit down and we say, okay, here's the price of the house. Here's the activity that the house has had on it. I find out from the agent how many pre-inspections people have done and how many sewer scopes, because that gives you an idea of how many players are going to be there. Some buyers or some sellers don't want to have people pre-inspect their house, so they provide you with an inspection that they give to all buyers, and then some don't. It just depends on the inspector. Then we get into the financing part where I say, okay, where's your comfortable payment? They work it out with their lender. As you know, you give them the good faith estimate, and so they can see where their high and their low is and what the payments would be and what they qualify for. And then I say, okay, do you have any extra cash? Because once you put down your 20% down on your loan, or your 30 or 40%, whatever it's going to be, say we're in a real winning bid situation and we're coming up against cash offers, are you willing to waive your financing completely because you feel so secure in your financing and your ability to close on a loan that you feel that you can take that risk and you're going to manage that and you feel like you can have a winning outcome and you're okay with that? Then we talk about if they say they cannot waive their financing, we say, okay, we're going to have financing, but what if we waive the appraisal?
Yes.
They say, Kari, what's waiving the appraisal? Well, that means the amount that you agree to pay for it doesn't measure up to what the bank appraiser says, and there could be a delta between those two numbers. They say, well, how does that work? Well, then I say, well, do you have extra cash somewhere, like under your bed in a case, or do you have parents that can help you? Or
that in the case can be dangerous when it comes to the financing, but
well, I guess I shouldn't go there, but or they'll say, how about your finances?
Yes.
How about, do you have a 401k that you can borrow against? So it won't be considered as a debt against your, your debt to income ratio. So can you, borrow against yourself? And right now the appraisers are kind of, they're following the tail of the dog. They're not leading.
Yes.
I mean, the appraisals have been going up, and as you had said earlier, the amount of appreciation we've had just in the last year has been terrific. I mean, it's been just amazing, but it's hard for the appraisers to keep up with that.
Yes.
There's actually
and
more
with the lack
houses
of inventory, there's not the comps to be able to support.
And so every month they're creating something new.
Yeah.
So I find appraisers, I'm calling them and I'm giving them appraisals, or I'm giving them comps to help them out. I'm showing them things that hasn't closed yet, where information I may say this person said they had 12 offers and, they're probably going to be in this range, just to help create new comps because they can't keep up with it. So getting back to your question about the appraisal, so if they do have that money, I'm finding because the appraisals are rising every single month on houses, I mean, the numbers are meeting up, that the appraisers are actually appraising. And so I've had very few cases where the number did not match the agreed amount. But I want them to have a plan B so they can, have food with their meals and make sure that they can, take care of themselves and not put themselves in a situation they can't close on and then lose their earnest money.
Yeah. So just a few days ago, I had a client that was making an offer on a property. I think the list price was $595. They were going over 100. They were going $100,000 over list price. And come to find out, their offer was not accepted. They waived their finance contingency, but added in not to waive the appraisal.
Right.
And the listing agent said that's what did it. So, and very devastating the key thing is to really listen to your realtor and the expert advice that they're giving you. Ultimately, it's your decision because it's your risk that you're taking.
Exactly.
But really finding out what that looks like and how much you want that home. Also, if you do have a larger down payment, something to think about, you can come in with a lower down payment, do a buyout of mortgage insurance if the appraisal came in low, that can help with that cash difference. So there's a lot of creative things, and just understanding what those options are so you're prepared and you don't miss out if really there was an option for you not to miss out, just as you talked about, Kari, and really strategizing on how to pull this together just in case that does happen. So let's move over to, you talked about the pre-inspection. Pre-inspection being that the buyers are going to go in and do an inspection with a bunch of other buyers and then hoping their offer gets accepted because they can't go in with an inspection contingency. You talked about sometimes the sellers not wanting a bunch of inspectors in there. So what are you doing around the inspection process? How are you navigating?
Well, when I have sellers, I really encourage them to have an inspection, because if I have their house priced properly, chances are I could get 3, 4, 5, or maybe even 10 offers on that property. And what we've had in the past happening, a new problem we're having, is that when inspectors, you have 10 inspections on your house, there's damage that occurs.
Yes.
Things happen, things break, get scratched. Somebody drops a screwdriver when they're up in the crawl space on the washing machine, it's dented, it's hard to fix it. There's just all kinds of things that happen. So I think it's really worth it for a seller to have an inspector come in, a reputable inspector that's licensed, bonded, and insured, have them have the inspection, pay the $500, and it could save them far less than if they had damage to their house. house, because it's really hard to say which inspector did the damage when you're having 3 inspections at one time on a Saturday morning.
Makes sense. And knowing what the condition of the house is before you list it is always a benefit, because majority of buyers are going to have some type of an inspection. They're going to do the pre-inspection, and the issues are going to come up. So you'd rather them come up before you get your home listed on the market.
Well, you would. And buyers are getting buyer fatigue right now. You know, they're paying $500 per inspection plus $250 for a sewer scope. They do that 3 times, and that starts digging into their down payment money.
Exactly. So we talked about financing. Waiving finance contingency, which just means you're just saying whatever happens with my loan, I'm going to move forward with this regardless, or I'm going to forfeit my earnest money, $30,000, $50,000. Some of these earnest monies are just, crazy what they're doing for earnest money. So how are you coaching and navigating through the waiving of financing? Do majority of your buyers doing that?
A lot of them are.
Yeah.
I mean, because once they've lost a couple of bids, they're like, okay, Kari, what can I do to win this?
Yes.
My answer is we have to throw it down. We have to go 100% as strong as we can. And we can't worry about everybody else. We really have to play to your strengths and what you're willing to, because everyone's level of risk that they're willing to take is different. So I'm going to gauge, in my experience of doing this so many years, where you're at, look at the resources that we have, work with our mortgage lender, and then make sure that we can come up with a bid we think that the seller can't live without.
Yeah, and if you've got a strong pre-approval, you're not going to lose your job or something traumatic is going to happen in that short period of 30 days, and everything's been looked over as far as the condition of the property, so there's no issues, then really it's not going to be a risk for you to go in and do that. But again, there's always something attached to it, so you've got to know what that looks like. What about title and waiving title?
A lot of people waive title. I always get a preliminary title. If I have any questions, we call the title company. A lot of them are really straightforward. If you have water property or a lot of easements, that's where you really want to do your diligence on your title. But at the end of the day, the seller is sitting back. They want the least amount of contingencies. They want the cleanest offer they can find. They know there's a ton of cash buyers out there. So us finance people are really trying to stand up with the cash buyers. And it's all cash to the seller at the end of the day.
Exactly.
But there's green cash and then there's finance cash.
Yes.
And so that's been the difference.
A lot more risk with the finance cash, so they want the green cash.
But I just had a deal I did about a week ago. I was one of 9 offers. I pre-inspected. I offered $350,000 over on the house. Wow. So the house ended up around $1,450,000. And we didn't get it. We waived everything. We had no financing. We had no contingencies. We had immediately released earnest money of like $75,000 to go to the seller. And somebody came in, with that bucket of cash, and we only lost because it was cash.
Crazy. So as we're wrapping up, I've got one more question here for you, Kari. Asking price, what is that really?
It's the starting price.
They should change the name.
It is truly the starting price, because if you come in, I've had sellers look at me and say, well, they pay me that. I don't want it. And I'm thinking, well, that's what you asked for, because the stigma of Seattle being that we're like the #1 market for growth, for building, for our economy, our jobs, not to mention the 58 cranes we have in downtown for all the building projects that they're working on, is that we're the land of milk and honey right now. And sellers, when they're selling, they read the news or they read the paper, they hear the news, they want to cash in on that too. So sometimes it's just tempering your seller to show the high and low market value, and know that if they're in that zone, they will get more than they ever thought they would. Yeah, it's all about pricing it right. Yes. Yeah, Kari, thank you so much for coming back in studio. It's always a pleasure to have a conversation with you. You too. Coming up next on the Money Hour, are you ready to be an entrepreneur? Karen Kornig with Edward Jones right here on 1150 AM KKNW after this short break.